Hello and welcome to my third post with my fiction writing. This one is called Femme Fatale. Marcella is an angel of death who learns not to count any man happy until he is dead. Extreme gender roles are not healthy for anyone. Chapter 1. When you are an attractive woman, you know precisely how loyal men are to their wives. When the neighbor's husband gives you a blatant, "I'm available" smile, you just add that to your statistics concerning the other more mildly inappropriate glances from other husbands, and you continue about your day. You never get those glances from the unattractive husbands, but the cute ones who know that they are cute. They are not to be trusted at all. The rich ones who already have a hot wife, you don't need to worry about them. They don't send out heat-seeking vibes like the cute ones who married for money or competence. I had just met his wife that afternoon for a child's play date, and I should have been more careful about my fashion choice. It was a linen wrap dress, and I was in the habit of wearing it without a bra. I would often wear it without underwear too, but that was less related to my dislike of bras and more related to the small, breezy kick I got by taking the dog out for a walk while wearing a dress with nothing underneath. Freedom. Anyway, I was having coffee at her house, sans bra, and while the dress looked perfectly presentable when I was standing or when I sat straight up, if I slumped or twisted, the fabric would bunch, and one of my breasts could be quite exposed from certain angles. Her baby had noticed this and attacked me in search of a quick meal, increasing the exposure and worsening the impression I was making. What made the situation worse was the fact that she was plain, flat-chested, overly bottom-heavy, and at the stage of her career where I had been 5 years earlier, back when I still had the same goals that she had. I said to her, first I had to watch younger men get promoted above me, and then I had to stand aside and watch years of incompetence unfold before my eyes. It was frustrating, and when there was an opportunity to apply for a professorship, I simply couldn't see myself wanting to teach arrogant young men every day for the rest of my life. "Oh my," she said. I could tell that she wanted me to shut up, but I didn't. Continued, "I once saw some young men talking about one of their female professors, and the amount of disrespect was just astounding. They thought she was stupid. I mean, if a woman works hard to get status and still gets no respect, what is the point?" She wrestled with her 2-year-old, and I sipped my coffee. She didn't like what I'd been saying. I took time off to have Sadie, but I'm volunteering at HCB because I want an academic project management job there. I plan to get a professorship, she said. I smiled and nodded. I had once believed that the secret to a happy life was to build up an identity which was independent of the happenstance gifts of nature. I wanted to build value in my mind, and it had come as a terrible shock to learn that no matter what I did, my body would always be more valuable to the men in my life than what was in my head. I was born to be a walking, talking teddy bear, designed for hugs, kisses, and comfort. I met her very handsome husband as I was leaving their house, and I'm sure that after I left she told him I was a nutcase who walked around with her boobs hanging out. This disparagement may have backfired because every time I saw him on the sidewalk thereafter, he sent out his mating beacon loudly and clearly. I didn't respond because I wasn't looking for trouble, but it did give me a measure of satisfaction that I still outranked a career woman in some ways. I think she saw me as a threat to her self-esteem and she punched back at my daughter's birthday party by inviting herself inside to chat. She talked shop with my husband for over an hour, while I focused on keeping the kids entertained. I could tell she knew that ambitious career talk hit a sore nerve with me, and that was why she was so persistent about it. The whole time she was there, the crazy, narcissistic part of me was saying, "Bitch, I'm not playing that game anymore. In my game, you lose and I win. Step off or I'll fuck your husband." This was an empty threat. I was a coward when it came to that sort of thing and didn't have a history of one-night love affairs, but I'd had a few indiscretions when I was young that made quite an impression on me. The most notable happened when I was home from college and at my dad's house. A family friend that I vaguely remembered from my mom's pool parties was staying there, and he had recently tried to kill himself with a fistful of pills when his wife left him. He hadn't been able to find a satisfying job, and his old friends to whom he had volunteered so much of his time had disappeared when he lost his sparkle. After he was released from the psychiatric hospital, my father had offered to pick him up because he was also going through a divorce, and that would give them something to commiserate over. They'd never been close friends, and he didn't know that my father had been sleeping with his soon-to-be ex-wife. His teenage daughter came over to bring him a Christmas present, and she was crying. She was several years younger than me, and I only barely remember her from my high school days. "Mom was screaming at me," she said, "and I didn't do anything wrong. I had just used her card to buy you a Christmas present. It was only a $15 cookbook." "Well, thank you for the cookbook. It is very nice," said her dead-eyed dad. "What happened to you two? It's like I don't know you at all anymore," she sobbed, unwilling to see that her parents' relationship had turned into a zero-sum game. "How's Buck?" asked her dad. He changed the subject and waited for her to calm down. "He's fine. We're spending Christmas with his family," she sniffed. "I'd like to look at the marriage contract you signed," he said. "Fine," she said. "There may be some legal issues since you are only 17, he said. "I'm not changing my mind," she said. "I know. I just want you to keep in mind that this is not the only way you have to live your life. Your mom and I are perfectly happy to support you through college," he said. "There is no your mom and I anymore," she said. "We still love you," he said. She had skipped 2 grades and was a certifiable genius, but she wanted a baby more than she wanted knowledge. Through a reflection in the window, I could see that her father kept looking past her at a Buddha statue in the garden. He had mentioned earlier that it would make a good anchor. The currents of the nearby river were swift. When his daughter left and my dad went out for groceries, well, I fucked Mr. Suicide senseless. He had a sad, hungry look in his eyes that I liked. He still killed himself a year later. Strangely enough, most of my one-time lovers ended up killing themselves. People had always teased me about being a femme fatale, but they didn't know how literally the label applied. There was the artist with the pretty eyes who never spoke. I'd known him in his 20s, and he made it to his 30s before giving up. He was a gentle soul, and people hadn't thought much of his art. Then there was the guy who was paying for college by working as a fisherman in the summers. That wasn't exactly suicide, but the work was dangerous as hell, and it killed him. He got caught on a fishing line, and within seconds he was pulled 20 meters under. We'd stumbled home drunkenly after a school dance, and my flatmate had been out of town, so we had sex in every room: sofa, kitchen table, bathroom, hallway, and bedroom. In the morning I was covered in rug burns and handprint-shaped bruises. He later came by for a repeat, but I told him that I had a lot of work to do. He wasn't a bad guy. He had a big funeral. I will not have a big funeral. I will quietly disappear like a rabbit in a magician's hat. Housewife one day, gone the next. When my kids headed off to college, I'd done a sort of disappearing act and started a new life. My husband was more interested in career women than he was in me, and my departure was not mourned. I was confused yet awed by women like my landlord, Roxanne. She would have a new guy lined up every Saturday night. They were always handsome, and they all got the same treatment. She would make a mess in the kitchen with spicy mushroom tacos, and then they would go upstairs to blare reggae music, which hid how loud they were. She wasn't that pretty, but she knew what she wanted. "Why are you single?" she asked me. "The selection is endless." "I guess I'm not as direct as you. I never know what I want," I said. "What is there to know? You just choose one and smile," she said. "I guess I only play a long game, and those calculations are associated with a lot of uncertainty, leaving me of two minds about everything," I said. "Well, what happened with that guy you liked from work?" "I wasn't sure if I liked him. I was just watching him and thinking about him, and when he made his move, I was unprepared. I had two options: say goodnight or follow him down the street, and I said goodnight. He had brought the moment to its crisis by pressing me up against a wall with a kiss, and I liked it a lot, but I still ran away. He didn't understand and felt rejected. Our first kiss was a goodbye kiss. Why was I like this and Roxanne like that? Did it come from puritanical propaganda, or was it something innate? If I wasn't going to have any more kids, did I actually need to play the long game anymore? Wrapping a man around my little finger just didn't sound that interesting or purposeful anymore. Maybe I was just afraid of death. When you are a mother, you focus on life and the future, but as I began living in the moment, death kept making itself known. It first made its appearance when I saw an article about a man I'd been with 1 week earlier. He'd been hit by a truck shortly after our awkward yet lusty date. After that, I checked the obituaries, and sure enough, that guy from the salsa club was there too. He'd been killed in a bar fight. Was I killing people? I'd known several men who'd killed themselves after their wives had left them for another man, and I'd sworn that I'd never do anything that awful. Was this cosmic irony trying to teach me a lesson? If my curse pertained to more than one-night stands, I would need to immediately confine myself to a nunnery. What if my curse applied to all of my future relationships? Could I, in good conscience, take that risk? I wasn't sure until I saw the one. It was love at first sight. The birds were singing, the sun was shining, I was walking on air. I'll stop there. To read the rest of this story and others, take a look at my collection of novelettes. It's called Disentanglement. I have a fascination with women who seem to have everything, but still manage to completely screw up their lives. So far, I have not done so myself, but I can see what drives this sort of self-destruction. Instead of doing it myself, I write about it. Thank you for watching this post or this video. Please tune in for my next one. Until then.